2019. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting is properly given by transmission to the Star Ledger, the Independent, and the Trooper Times by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk on January 10, 2019. Committeeman Heidel.
Here.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Here.
Committeewoman Snell.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Here.
Mayor Perry.
Here.
Authorized for pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor the troops serving worldwide, defending our constitutions, freedoms, and way of life. Thank you. Our first item on tonight's agenda, we have a proclamation recognizing August 31st as the Overdose Awareness Day in Middletown Township. That's for the record. And we have, now we have a public hearing on ordinance 2019-3266, an ordinance amending 2019 salary ordinance 2019-3244.
Any member of the public wishing to speak on public ordinance 2019-3266? Don?
Yeah, I was looking at the ordinance when it was introduced, and there were some things, new positions that are added to this ordinance. You guys are generating a superintendent of roads that was not on the former list.
It's
replacing. It's not a new position completely, it's just new in this ordinance.
Right.
Yeah.
So who's holding that position?
The person who did hold that position is retired.
Okay.
So we're replacing that person, but we're putting the person in the management section of the township.
But it doesn't say vacant. Like there are other positions that aren't filled that say vacant. So I was just curious as to who was holding that position.
Yeah, it was somebody who retired a few months ago.
Okay, so you haven't appointed anybody to that position yet?
We actually have, but
They haven't started yet.
it happened since this ordinance was introduced.
Okay, so my question again is, who's holding that position?
No one's holding it. The person, we've made an offer to somebody, and they
Oh, you made an
accepted it,
offer,
but they haven't started.
So you haven't appointed anybody yet?
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Is that the same for the next one? Superintendent of Buildings and Grounds?
That person has started.
Okay, and who is that?
Bill Korecki, his name is.
Bill Korecki? Okay.
And that's not a new one. We had somebody in that position before.
Okay.
There's no brand new positions in here. All positions you see in here are jobs that were just somewhere else or not in any ordinance.
So when this was introduced, why were some of these positions highlighted?
Just to let the committee know which ones were changed
'Cause
over the
yeah.
prior salary ordinance. Because we do a salary ordinance every year, the beginning of the year,
Right, like
so,
we did.
So sometimes during the year, things come up that cause you to have to amend the ordinance. So to make it easier for them to understand what the changes were, I highlighted
Okay.
some of them.
Right, because a lot of the highlighted positions were not on the salary ordinance from the
Right,
beginning of the
but
year.
they were, for example, special police officers. They
Right.
weren't listed anywhere. So they just needed to be in an ordinance somewhere. So again, nothing is totally new. They're just being put in a place where they should have been all along.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Don. Any other member of the public wishing to speak on public ordinance 2019-3266? Seeing no other member of the public, move to close public portion and approve.
Second.
Committeeman Heidel.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on second and final reading. At this time, I'd like to ask the Township Committee to adopt a consent agenda which would include resolutions 19-223 through 19-235, removing 19-228, and including raffle and new applications.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Committeeman Heidel.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt the consent agenda. At this time, we have resolution 19-228, a resolution authorizing award of contract for Grand Tour and Indian Terrace improvements contract number 19-01.
Motion to approve.
Committeeman Heibel.
Recuse.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carried to adopt Resolution 19-228 with recusal noted. At this time, we have the Township Committee acting as the agency issuing authority. We have Resolution 19-236, a resolution authorizing renewal of plenary retail distribution license 1331-44-007.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Committeeman Heibel.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt Resolution 19-236. Our agenda items for our next regular meeting will include certificates of proclamations, approval of minutes, public hearing on proposed ordinances, introduction of proposed ordinances, and consent agenda. At this time for discussion items tonight, we have, we begin with Latham Ave parking restriction.
No.
So just so you're aware, we had some discussions about doing some parking ordinance amendments to deal with a parking problem that we have on Latham Avenue. It's very similar to the situation we found ourselves with on Alexander with regard to parking, excessive parking in the neighborhood on the immediate street adjacent to the school. So we are going to come up with a proposed ordinance to limit parking to one side of the street, limit the time, amount of time vehicles can be parked on Latham, so that the neighbors aren't overburdened with parking. So again, it's a very similar situation to what we did with Alexander. So we'll probably have an ordinance for introduction at the next meeting.
Okay.
Next item, we have the Library Capital Improvement Project for the Clean Energy Direct Install Program.
We're going to talk about that.
Well, Heather is here. but-
Oh, Blitzen, should we introduce?
Absolutely. Come on up, Heather. Our brand new library director. Appreciate you making this your first meeting.
Come on, Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Andelson. I'm day 3 on the job. So I'm really happy to be here in Middletown. This is a fantastic library, fantastic town, and we're already moving ahead with lots of money-saving options here. And that specifically would be about the New Jersey Office of Clean Energy Direct Install Program. This program basically is a way for the library to reduce our electricity cost. It's a state-run program that happens with lots of educational facilities around the state. I was involved with something like this in my previous job in Burlington County. It's a fantastic program, and basically what's happening is that it's going to be helping us fix our air conditioning, helping us get better lighting, it's going to reduce our overall use, and it's going to save us a lot of money because they do, they pay for a lot of the money, the state. It's called a direct install program. So instead of us having to put out over $128,000 in money that we would need to fix certain things such as air conditioning and our lighting, we would only have to put out about $38,000. These are not wish list items. These are things that we absolutely need. We have to have air conditioning. We have to replace our lighting systems with better, like the LED bulbs and stuff like that. So this is stuff that would have had to happen anyway. So luckily this program helps us reduce that cost.
Yeah. And as Committeeman Sedambrino is a liaison there, but as a former member of the library board and as a former president, these cost saving measures are truly the way to go to absolutely reduce the quite expensive utility bills that our library has, and the reduction of those bills through this program are in my mind absolutely critical. Any way we can reduce our power consumption and cost at the same time with LED bulbs that'll cost just a fraction of the cost we're experiencing now are critical to the success of the library. So I'm very happy to see this is something that we started discussing back in probably 2016 I think. So I'm glad to see it come to fruition.
Just to expand on the mayor's comments, the program actually changed from a 70-30 split in terms of the state versus local to 80-20. So it's only 20% local share. The money's only due when the project is complete. There is no down payment. And the LED lamps will reduce operational costs on a per lamp basis by about 50%.
Yeah, we participated in the program first go around, I think it was right 2009 or 10, something like that, and this building was done. And already what was done in this building then could be redone again under this program. Of course, there's no sense to do it to this building at this time, but that's how quick the technology changes, and the money savings was noticeable.
Absolutely. Heather, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you I'm happy to be here myself. I have lots of information if anyone's interested. Kilowatt hours, we can get down to that if we need to.
Easy read material.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You leave that, and we'll take that.
Thank you.
The bid for the 2024 450 series of adult minibus or equivalent. The street vacation, Texas Avenue and Jefferson Way.
So Sanna's here to talk about those.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Hello. So I'll keep it simple and short because I see Colleen glaring at me. So, every time I'm here, the meeting goes on.
Never a good sign.
Huh?
Never a good sign.
Never a good sign. So it's very simple. We had 2 street vacation requests like a year and a half ago. It takes forever to get letters out, this, that, and the other. So for Texas Avenue, what happens is if we have any objections, we don't come to you. We just terminated that. In this case, we have no objections except the sewer, Tomsa wants easement. We've done that in the past. If the Township Committee is amenable to it, then we could reach out to the 2 property owners. They can hire their attorneys, and then they'll work with our Township Attorney's office, and then we'll have an ordinance ready at the next meeting, whenever that happens. So that's for Texas Avenue. For Jefferson Way, it is very straightforward. No one had any objections. The neighbors didn't object either. They requested their half of the right-of-way. And if you look at what I sent with your, what you got with your packets, it goes along the entire length up to Tomsa's property. So Tomsa wants their share as well. If you're amenable to it, we'll reach out to all the parties and get the ordinance ready.
Any questions for Sam? Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
And we have the pavement restoration ordinance.
Ted's not here to talk about it. Tony, you want to talk about this, or?
Yeah. We had, if you recall, we had done a ordinance a couple of years ago because we were seeing so much activity, and we're still seeing it with the utility companies doing work in roads, and they were only required at the time to pave the road, the half width of the road. And it became, a problem because so many roads were half paved. It was an eyesore, it was not really safe to drive on, and the residents on those roads really didn't like it, having the road half paved and half new pavement and half old pavement. Another situation that we hadn't encountered prior, though, was the situation where a road gets done for a certain distance in 2 directions, and then a section is left unpaved. And we've had that happen recently. And so we can go to the contractors and say, hey, it doesn't make sense to leave that. And sometimes they'll be cooperative and do it, but other times they don't really have to because we don't have an ordinance. So this ordinance simply cleans that up and says that you can't just leave, I think it's a 100-foot section, you can't leave that section unpaved. You have to finish the whole road. So it's just kind of closing a small loophole that we discovered after a few years. And that's as simple as it is.
All right.
We have the Taylor Lane improvements.
So this is, while Sam's sitting down, the issue of the project on Taylor Lane, the American Properties project, there was a condition in the approval of that project that said that they had talked about some various traffic calming measures that had been discussed at the hearings. I think they were discussed as part of litigation as well. And ultimately it says,
Folks, if you want to come right down here, then no problem. I just want to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity here, because I'm assuming you're here for the Taylor Lane portion of it. Yep.
so the condition of the planning board's action was that ultimately the Township Committee would decide on the accepted methods for creating a traffic calming there. So with that, Ted and I and Stan met, we had some conversations about it. They submitted some alternative proposals, and so that's what we're down to.
So at the board hearing, and I think everybody here, I recognize faces, they saw that they had come up with three, and Committee Woman Snell was at the meetings as well, so they had come up with three traffic calming measures. One was at a roundabout on the proposed Taylor Lane at the most southerly intersection of the property. It's the Taylor Lane and the southernmost access driveways. The second was speed humps, so 2 speed humps along proposed Taylor Lane. The third was additional directional signage prohibiting traffic coming from the proposed development from traveling south onto proposed Taylor Lane, which would require all traffic coming directly to go north towards Route 35. So the planning board required as a condition of that approval that all the traffic improvements be shown on a traffic calming exhibit, but the final decision was whether any, some or all traffic calming devices are required was left to the review and approval of the Township Committee. Typically what that happens is then the Township engineer takes a look at it to see whether it is what would be most appropriate, because he has the technical know-how for that. So Tony, Ted and myself met and we discussed what the different options are, and the speed hump option, what Ted finds as the Director of Public Works for snow removal and maintenance, it's an issue. The other thing, Ted felt that the additional, I mean we agreed actually, so he suggested that the additional signage prohibiting the residents to travel south is unnecessary, because Taylor Lane is a public right-of-way, and he felt that that is too much of signage, not necessary. So we came to a conclusion that that the roundabout is the best option. It slows down the traffic. It satisfies all the concerns that the neighbors had. Now, Ted also brought a few interesting points which, I didn't think of, but the overall maintenance we need to see. So it was our opinion that the circle, and I think I included copies of the exhibit that the applicant had submitted. So what the center portion, the circle, we don't know what they're proposing, if it's going to be brick, whether it's going to be landscape. So what we felt like that center portion should be under the purview of the homeowners association for the development, so they take care of all the landscaping. The rest of the road will take care of it, the township. So, so out of the three, it was Ted, Tony's and my opinion that the roundabout is the best. It satisfies the residents' concerns and is a better engineering alternative.
So if I may?
Sure.
I've dealt with this property,
Mhm.
only Tony Mercantante may have more years on this property than I have. Since 2009, when it was forced upon us in the development plan for COA in 2009. Of course, it's taken a decade now of litigation and other things, and we see that it's now looks like it's going to be to fruition. I see many of the residents here who I have met with multiple occasions since 2009 regarding Taylor Lane. As many are not aware, because it's easy just to see trees cleared and removed, this site plan was denied at the planning board initially. Okay,
like pretty much every other site plan that goes through in a major site plan, and like every other was overturned and remanded back to the planning board by the court for approval. Since then, the neighbors out here have fought and litigated and worked to try to come to some resolution with the applicant to put this to bed. I commend them for doing that, putting their resources towards doing that, outside of the resources we've had to spend to defend the planning board and other decisions. So my viewpoint is, if they want these three things, I understand that the roundabout is the first best option, and I agree with that. But I don't see an issue with additional signage, okay? I differ from Mr. Maloney's opinion on that. I don't see a detrimental benefit. I don't see that there's be any type of harm to additional signage. But honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of speed humps. I'm also not the biggest fan of new development either. So if it's going to actually, if this is something that's going to ease the burden of the neighborhood who put a lot of time and energy in investing, if it's just a little harder to snowplow, so be it. So I'm going to make the motion that we do all three for the neighborhood, because quite honestly, it's their neighborhood. And I don't see anything that significantly points to me that we should only go towards option one as
Well,
suggested.
I will say, we got lots of requests for speed humps in the road.
I understand.
We've never done it.
On existing streets
On a
already.
public street.
On existing public streets
This is
already.
existing public street.
Correct, with a development that is not developed yet.
Right, but that's almost always the case.
Okay.
I mean,
But it's not almost
I just think that that's a risky move, frankly. I think speed humps are a problem on public streets, that's why you don't see a lot of them. They are a snow plowing problem, they're a noise problem. When people drive over speed humps, you hear thump, 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 thump.
Not if they're
And-
tabletops.
Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sold on that as being a good idea. It's obviously your decision, but.
Is the bumper strip a better alternative?
Yes, they're better, but they're still
They're
noisy.
loud.
Somebody's gonna hear it, and that's what happens. You wind up with complaints about the noise that is created. That
If it's on the
becomes,
southerly side, what existing resident is on that side at this point?
yeah, it's pretty close to existing residents. They're not that far from that first intersection. There's a couple of houses, I think on the west side of the road that are close to there. But even the residents are gonna be living in the development, and you're gonna hear that noise, and it'll become a future complaint. So that's, and the other thing about it is that the signage issue, what it was, there was a lot of signs. Some of them, there seems to be more than necessary, like a sign saying no right turn when you can make a right turn. That didn't make any sense onto Route 36, Route 35. The other issue, there was a sign coming out of one of the driveways of the development that said no right turn. And I get that you want people turning out of there to not be able to turn right and go down Taylor Lane. But the issue with that is, it's sort of a practical one, that you're telling people who live in this new development, if you want to go to Dorset Park, you have to go out onto Highway 35, go around and drive a lot longer, which is really doesn't make any sense. People are only going to turn right if they're going someplace relatively close. Why else would they? They're going to go out onto the highway.
Brian, and Sam, what official action, does a resolution have to be passed for this, or is this just the prerogative of the Township Committee?
So the way it was worded, just that approval of the committee. I don't think you need to do a resolution, because there's no formal action.
Provide direction to the engineers the engineers are going to be working with their engineers to finalize the design.
So if the rest of the Township Committee is okay with this, obviously we have some residents from Taylor Lane here. I would like to perhaps see if I can hear what they have to say, and then at the next Township Committee meeting, provide guidance to the township engineer and to our professionals to make that decision, make that determination.
I'd like to also get some information on the rumble strip, because it's better for the ambulance and fire trucks.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Well, I think at the meeting too, we did discuss the noise at
Okay.
planning board. And I think the residents that were there are aware, if I remember correctly, Sam.
Yes.
They're aware that there's probably going to be some kind of noise level.
But you know, if the purpose is to slow people down, slow traffic down, a roundabout and I'm not an engineer, but I've been doing this for many years, a roundabout serves the purpose. Regarding the signage, it is bordering on Taylor Lane and Route 35. To have two Route 35 signage at this point seems redundant. And as Tony said, it's a public right of way, to not allow people to make a right turn to go to Dorset Park and for them to have to go around, it doesn't make sense.
Well, what I think should be the course of action for us is to hear the residents that are here today, and perhaps in the interim, provide yourself, Ted, Tony, take a look at the proposed signage that the developer has provided us in the options, and show which ones perhaps don't really make sense, and let's try and communicate that with residents of the community, and also look into. I understand the plowing and the snow plowing is an obvious one, but I would like to know more about, from a safety and emergency services perspective, I would just like to hear from our chiefs of police, fire, and EMS on the effects that any type of, a variety of speed bumps or rumble strips, whatever, would be able to provide to us before making such a decision. So we'll hold this off until the next Township Committee meeting before providing guidance. All right. Okay. We're going to have a public comment period, sir, and I'll let you know when we have that.
The last item I have, the Navesink school area parking and traffic control. Is that Latham?
It's tied in with the Latham,
Yeah.
that, we need to have I think we need to do a comprehensive look at that neighborhood and a few of the other elementary schools that have big parking and traffic issues. We had suggested some time back with the Board of Ed that we form a committee of people to really look at all those elementary schools in particular, and even the middle school to some degree, and come up with some recommendations to improve traffic and circulation and parking conditions around them, and I think we need to do that again.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have Township Committee comments.
Committeeman Snell?
I'm gonna wait until the next committee meeting.
Committeeman Sunlight?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll defer my comments to the public meeting.
Committeeman Heibel? Deputy Mayor? The only two things that I would like to mention, obviously Wednesday, the township will be holding its annual moment of silence on the 18th anniversary of September 11th. Middletown lost 37 individuals and just recently lost Joe Capriati, who was, if you haven't seen the stories already, the police officer responsible for holding the list of those who did not return from the World Trade Center, and truly wore that on his sleeve. And I'll be praying for his family on September 11th, so it is very, very heartbreaking. But this will be the first 9/11 ceremony that Joe's not at, and so if we can all just pause on that day and think of Officer Capriati. The only other thing that I'll mention, not to be down in the dumps here today, but a great friend of Middletown passed away Saturday morning. Tony Panzica, who I'm sure many of you know, is the volunteer in town. You call up Tony, he's there. Santa Claus every year, no question. Tony is a guy who showed up after Sandy on 10/29/2012, and I can still see him with those green checks that he would come with, and dropping off $200 at a time every single day for weeks following Superstorm Sandy. And Carol Panzica, his wife, passed away on Saturday, and was a true wonderful person. And her wake is tonight, and I'm hoping Middletown, I know we are all going there, but I hope Middletown can show up for a truly great person and family. So with that being said, not to get down in the dumps, but I thought that needed to be said. Any member of the public wishing to make a comment? Before I call on the first person, please just state your name and address for the record, and if you could keep your comments to 5 minutes, we would appreciate that. At 4 minutes, I'll let you know that you just have 1 minute left, so if you could begin to wrap up your comments. We'll try and stay after as long as possible, but as I mentioned, the Township Committee is going to go pay its respects to Carol Panzika and the Panzika family. So, with that being said, any member of the public wishing to make a comment? Yes, sir, please.
My name is Brian Johnson. I live on Taylor Lane, 210 Taylor Lane, where I've been a resident for over 20 years now. I want to thank everybody here, first of all, for the diligent and extensive consideration of the AP application, which is what I'd like to speak for 2 minutes about. A lot of work has been spent dealing with this application, and I think it's been fully vetted in many regards, and I thank everybody for the attention and the opportunity to come back here. In the last several weeks, we've seen the trees come down. Everybody's had a tear on their eye or a smile, depending which side of the fence you're on, and so on and so forth. Traffic mitigation, topic of the evening. There are two things that we're trying to arrest with those proposed traffic mitigation devices. And a private meeting was held between the residents, at least some certain members of the residency, and AP. That's how those three were come up with. The two issues are traffic volume and traffic speed. Let me explain them very clearly in my 4 minutes here to clearly understand why some of these things are needed. I might agree that the speed bumps might be an onerous burden. Just this week, even though softball season's over, the open territory at the end there still encourages several drivers on Taylor Lane. I understand this is not a problem of AP's to go on excessive speeds on that road. I have clocked cars going 100 miles an hour down that road. Now there's two things that lead me to believe that that will stop with this new development. One is that the buildings are going to be taking off in a right-hand direction there on realigned Taylor Lane. There's going to be a visual impediment as you sit at the Taylor, Devonshire run, and you look down there, and that distance is not so long. Point number one. Point number two, the traffic circle will be there, and if there's signage that indicates that there, that'll slow it down. I think the residents in general are happy with that. I approve of that effort. So the traffic circle is necessary in that regard. Not only that, it slows the physical traffic down. The speed needs to be reduced on the street. The other function of the Taylor Lane traffic mitigation is volume. I understand that all of this has been vetted. Experts have come up. We've had the opportunity to present our experts. We asked for a waiver in the final application that was approved for a collector, non-collector road status. They got that waiver. They're designing to that waiver. That's fine. That doesn't obviate what may be the very real possibility, which is impossible to tell a priori, that the number of cars coming down Taylor Lane is going to be a collector road number of cars. Just in the time that they've taken the trees down, I've noticed an increase in traffic and people coming across, going around, coming back through to see what's going on. Even though there's no volume there right now, there is increased traffic. I know school just started, I got it. But even this summer when they started doing it in July, there is increased traffic. Enforcement's obviously the issue with the signage. If there's too much signage and it's confusing, please resolve it. But it's my opinion that some signage needs to be there to deter. Will it totally deter everybody from making a turn out? No. Does somebody want to go park? Yes. Some of the volume of that traffic, it would be ideal if that was shunted in another direction. And I'll tell you when, I'll finish up why. The intersection, and everybody's been through this one, when you take that jug handle around Starbucks, that, I won't let my 16-year-old son drive that intersection, learning how to get his permit. There are just too many moving parts there, and it's going to get worse with the lane across, and it's not going to get better unless some of those other things are done. That's going to become, there's a lot of traffic flowing in and out of there, and it's going to plow through. The people in the development are not going to go through 35. I know it sounds silly, but in the last week, I have avoided that intersection, not for construction reasons, but because traffic's coming up. This is after 5, construction's done, cars away. I've gone all the way around to the Hess to go around to get into where I live on Taylor Lane. These people are going to take their whatever vehicle or every path they need to the train station. They're going to go through the neighborhood and so on and so forth. The existing neighborhoods already do it. There's a Village Lane corner there that's very, very small. And at pickup time, it's extremely dangerous, even under the current traffic conditions, to get through safely without hitting cars, mothers, and kids. And I'm just worried about 176 people. Now I understand that they're purchasing property there, they want to be able to get places, I understand it. But volume, as well as speed, needs to be arrested. I would at least like to see the signage and the circle, the humps you can talk about.
Thank you. Appreciate those comments. Any other member of the public? wishing to make a comment. Mr. O'Malley?
Yeah, did you guys award the
Just your-
contract?
just your name
Oh,
and
I'm sorry,
address.
Steve
That's all.
O'Malley of 4 Indian Terrace. Did you guys award the contract for Indian Terrace and Grand Tour?
Yes, sir.
And the vote?
That was the separate vote, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure of that.
Voted in the affirmative.
Thank you.
Any other member of the public wishing to make?
Joe Capuzzo, 28 Devonshire. I agree with Brian as well. The additional traffic, we're already seeing that bottom come down Devonshire, Taylor through. I think it's been an extension of jug handle pretty much coming through that development every day. So, you know, the assault already started and.
So you would agree with the signage and the circle?
You know what, I would agree with closing Taylor Lane. Let it close it.
That would
Put
be
a
a
cul-
hardship for him, though.
Put a cul-de-sac, no, wait a minute, put a cul-de-sac on both sides.
Yeah,
When I,
you've been down that road. You got it.
So the circle and the signage is what, out of the 3 options?
yeah, look, if it slows the traffic down, but, you know what, traffic circles, we see them in Lincroft, right? I see them on 520
This would be a
drive-through
lot
there.
smaller.
Yeah, it's very,
I mean,
very
that's-
tiny.
You know what, it's a challenge driving through there. I know it's a lot smaller. If you go through, go through Cold Snake.
Well, those are much, I hear you saying, but those are much bigger 2-lane circles. They're traffic rotaries, so to speak. This isn't gonna serve as a rotary, but listen, I'm with you.
It's terrible.
The speed bump thing, I say because if that was something that the neighborhood worked out with the applicant, I wasn't going to stand in the way, but I do think that it is redundant. But if it was part of an agreement, I wasn't going to stand in front of it. But I do think that this circle would slow down speed. The signage, I have a different view still. I don't think that additional signage is coming. That's just me.
Mark Clay, I'm sorry, Mark Clay, 24 Devonshire Court. I would agree with you, sir, but on the signage, I think the signage is important. It's all part of what we've been fighting for all along. And the concern we've had is the amount of volume that's going to be entering into our neighborhood. It's not necessarily the people that go to Dorset Park or so on. And it's really just the amount of volume coming out of that community. Now, we've all heard the numbers, we've all heard the percentages. I am not a believer in the percentages that they thrown up there relative to the number of cars that are not, going to come through our neighborhood. Only 11 cars are going to come through my neighborhood, in our neighborhood, when, during the peak and so on. It was some ridiculous number like that. I don't necessarily believe that at all. I am a professional engineer as well, and, I think it all goes into what everybody wants to make as in relative to what an assumption is. We all know that, how that plays out. I think that, our concern is the volume, like I said, yes, the safety, to reduce the speeds, and so on. I would have to agree that, in terms of maybe a rumble strip or that's not necessarily, if you have a roundabout there. I mean, obviously, there were meetings and concerns. We never really did understand why we couldn't close, the street, but, so be it, if we're down there. And relative to the people that are buying the communities, let them know up front so they know what they're buying into. When they show off the properties and they show that, put the signage up. Let somebody understand that, so they're not walking into a not knowing the situation. It's going to be a lot harder to fight to get the signage in later, after the community is up and running, for us, than now. Let them be forewarned. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. Don?
Yeah, just curious, how Don Watson, living at 1 Collinson Drive, and I was just wondering what would be the diameter of that circle? And you said it's only going to be 1 lane around?
Just 1 lane done.
Yeah. Is there a specification for the inside diameter? Yeah? Okay. Also,
Yes.
we had a,
Yes.
Resolution 19-236. When Heidi read that, it read just like 19-235. Is there another resolution that was added to the agenda that's not here?
Yeah, there was a late addition to the agenda. I guess.
So-
Our staff must have copied
So you just
the
bumped
one.
235 down to 236?
236 is the one that was adopted for the ABC issuing authority.
Right, and 235 is the new one. Okay. I just wanted to get that straight. I think that's all I got for right now.
Okay,
Thank you.
Any other member of the public wishing to make a comment? Seeing no other member? Yes.
My name's
Sorry.
Paul Rinaldi, I live at 20 Birch Drive, and talking about Taylor Lane. I've been involved with this since the beginning, back in 2009. I studied the traffic issues very closely, and most recently spent about an hour on the phone with Carl Penke, who happens to be the traffic engineer for American Properties. Wonderful gentleman, went through piece by piece on each one of these components, pros and cons across the board, listened to what he had to say from the American Properties standpoint. American Properties standpoint is they will do whatever we want. All right, we've met with American Properties, I was one of the people at that meeting. We went through the developer the same way. A couple clarity points here that we need to look at. Taylor Lane will now be open to be coming across from Cherry Tree Farm Road through to Route 35 into Taylor Lane. One of the issues is this: people initially may think that that may be a faster way to the train station. It isn't, but they don't know that. It's easier to make a left, go down Kings Highway, it's faster. But people will see that straight through there. So, my opinion, and actually spending this time with Carl Penke on the phone, is I would like to see the speed humps, and I would like to see the rotary. And to be very clear, it is a rotary. I don't know if anybody knows the difference between a rotary and a circle, but this is a rotary. If you look at the traffic plan itself, there are stops or yield signs in front of the rotary itself, just like down over at Brookdale Community College. They are going to come to that point, they will yield. But if you put the speed hump there, I addressed that with them also about the fire trucks, the garbage trucks, there's a traffic plan. All these items that we're talking about, the speed hump, the rotary, the signage, all fits within their traffic plan, so there's no problem within their development itself that there would be an objection. All right? That said, when that road comes straight through, we need to have some sort of a psychological deterrent for the people coming down Cherry Tree Farm Road not to think that Taylor Lane is a cut-through street. That's why I think the speed hump is very important. They hit the speed hump, then they hit a circle, a rotary. They're going to sit there the second time they do it saying, this isn't worth doing anymore, which is exactly what we want. We don't want all that excess of traffic coming through our neighborhoods with our kids out on the street. I've been there 25 years. I have 3 daughters. My daughters are all grown now. I would never at the time let them go to Dorset Park because they would have to walk down Taylor Lane. It's been that dangerous for that many years. So that said, like I said, I've spent a lot of time with Carl Penke on the phone about this. We went through detail by detail by detail on each piece of that, and even the signage going back onto Route 35, American Properties was very good, very cordial with us in saying they would do it, they thought it was a good idea for their residents. So why would there be an objection here? I don't know if American Properties, the owner of that property, thinks that it's fine. Going back to that again, you're not familiar with speed humps, but if you've ever been down a road that has speed humps on them, they're not very high. And all they do is they will slow traffic down. There's almost no noise that comes out of it. It's not like somebody's going to hit it at 90 miles an hour like a speed, like the rumble strips, and it's going to make noise. Speed humps don't do that. They slow the vehicle down, especially when Tony had indicated the flat top speed hump. American Properties will do whatever type of speed hump we want.
Well, they'll do that because they don't have to maintain it.
Well, they don't have to maintain it. I
They'll
also asked
do
him
anything they want on public streets.
I said to him, what's the cost of doing each one of these? And he said to put a speed hump in. As a matter of fact, I said to him, can you do this? I said, can we put another speed hump on the other side of the road? He said, sure. He said, we can do it while we're doing the road.
We'll put 12 in, if you say put 12 in. I mean, that's the thing, it's not their responsibility once it's put in. It becomes the township's responsibility. And there are safety issues with speed humps, no matter how you design them, in public streets. That's why you very rarely, you see them in a lot of parking lots, you don't see a lot of them in public streets.
I was down in Maryland. I disagree with you there. There was a neighborhood
In New Jersey, you don't see a lot of them.
This was in Maryland, but it just happened to be I was going to a family affair there, through a neighborhood that had speed humps in it, and they were much closer than these were, didn't make any noise, and the speed limit was held to 25 miles an hour, no one was going any faster. So that said, my opinion is that I would like to see the committee go with all three of those traffic calming for the reasons that I stated. Number one would be the Cherry Tree Farm Road cut-through, so we can defer that. The second thing would be the actual rotary. That's a visual deterrent, and it's also a physical deterrent on there. And lastly is the signage which leads that development out onto Route 35. So be it that if they have to go to Dorset Park, they have to go around the corner and go down Cherry Tree and then over to Devonshire. We don't believe there'll be much of that. Will people violate the no right-hand turn, no left-hand turn? They might. That's an enforcement issue. But at the same time, we're looking at it from our standpoint that we need to have a minimum number of traffic. So don't forget, this is 176 units in a neighborhood that only has 230 houses in it. You're almost doubling the capacity of the number of cars that are going to be on the road. And that's, a lot of it's going to be coming back towards us. And that's one of the reasons why we're objecting to it, and we're asking that you approve all three of those traffic calming devices.
Thank you very much, sir. And that's exactly what the purpose of halting and waiting to hear from what the neighborhood would prefer. And I will say that I have office hours September 18th. What time? 5:30 to 7. I'll stay for as long as you want. Anybody from your neighborhood that wants to come and tell me the desire of the neighborhood, I'm more than happy to stay for as long as I need to hear from folks and what they would prefer. All three, two of the three, I'll listen to everybody.
Tricia McGuire, 49 Foxwood Run. Just curious, when will you, as a committee, be voting on the?
As I said, we don't have to do a resolution on this. It's just a direction that the township has to give, which we'll do at the September 23rd meeting.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Maureen Fetchy. I live on Cherry Tree Farm Road, and I'm concerned about the impact of this whole development as well. I know we're only focusing on the Taylor Lane, but I'm a little concerned, as the other gentleman said, Starbucks, Quick Check, it's a disaster. And what is it going to be like after this development's built?
Thank you for your comments. Any other member of the public wish? Yes, sir.
Tom Gaffey, Grand Tour, Locust. I would just like to thank the committee and the management of Middletown for the foresight that they had for the completion of the Grand Tour Indian Terrace project. I thank you, and I thank all of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. It's not done.
Any other member of the public wishing to make a comment? Yes, sir.
Yeah, William Tucker, 20 Devonshire Court. I'd also like to remind everybody that's not the only new development we have going up on Taylor Lane. So when we talk about the increased traffic, there's a whole nother development being done just a little bit further up Taylor. So you're not talking about just 173 houses, you're talking about an additional development.
Any other member of the public? Seeing no other member of the public, I move to close public portion and adjourn. Second.
Committeeman Hyde.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedamino.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor White.
Yes. Have a great night, everybody.